Last night my 35M fiancé, 38F, left in the evening to give a friend's son a ride back to his home. She implied she'd be home before 9. She left at around 7:45. 10:15 rolled around and she still wasn't home. I texted and she apologized to me, saying that her friend's son was actually in the next town over, maybe 30 minutes away, and she was coming home now. 11:45 rolled around and she still hadn't come home, so I called her to no answer. Texted her to no response. I was getting very upset. 12:30 rolled around and still no response and no answer to my phone calls. I was extremely angry. 1:30 rolled around and my anger had completely transformed into worry. Not answering my calls and texts not read. Around 1:45 I called the police. I have always heard that the first 24 hours of someone being missing is the most important, so I didn't want to delay. I asked them to let me know if there had been any traffic accidents involving her car, and the operator told me that they would put out the word and send some cops to check along the route she would travel. I called all the hospitals in the area to check if she has been checked in, and I waited outside watching the road for her car for 3 hours, partially because I didn't want the kids to hear me on the phone with hospitals, and secondly because I was sick with worry. At 7 a.m. she came home. She apologized for being out and said she had no excuse. She was driving home and felt tired, like she was falling asleep at the wheel, so she pulled over to the side of the road to sleep. When she did that, she found that her brand new phone had stopped working. She says she napped anyway because it was the responsible thing to do, and then came home at 7 a.m. to bring the kids to school and get to work on time. I immediately called the police and told them that she had come home safely and gave them the case number and told them to stop searching, which they did. My gents brought the kids to school and left for work. I set out to start cleaning. Cleaning distresses me sometimes, and I got a call from a policeman asking where she worked. I told him, and asked why, and I was informed that it was their policy to check on the person's wellness after a missing person is found. I asked them to not go by her work but to give her a call instead. He said he couldn't promise. My fiancée is relatively new to her job. A police officer showed up and asked to speak with her. She is now enraged at me for calling the police and sending a cop to her work and making her look bad. She is saying I overreacted and that she wasn't missing and that I was punishing her for doing the responsible thing and not driving while drowsy. She is saying that she is never going to leave the house again except for work, because she is afraid I'm going to call the cops on her again. So did I overreact? Should I have waited 2 days like she suggests? Me 25M, my brother Jack 27M and his wife Jill 25F. It all started when Jack and Jill got pregnant. Their lease almost ended and my parents invited them to stay at our house. The day they came, Jack asked me why I haven't moved out of my room yet. I was confused, like WTF, and he told me that he and Jill will be at my room and I go to guest room. I refused, but my parents got mad, we got into a fight. I lost and ended in much smaller guest room. Then Jill had a problem with my cooking. I eat scrambled eggs with mozzarella and avocado every day for breakfast and she couldn't stand the smell. She asked me to stop, I refused. My parents got involved, I had to stop. There were problems with other food too, and I had to stop cooking them. I was told I must be more accommodating cause she pregnant. Like that is my problem. Then Jill started to boss me around. We were alone for 8 hours while my parents and Jack worked. She obviously thought I will be her personal maid. I refused, she threw a temper tantrum, like always, and I again had big fight with Jack and my parents. I was told that she had a high-risk pregnancy and was on bed rest, and I'm an asshole for not helping her. I told Jack that he knocked her up, it's his responsibility. I stood my ground and in the end Gil's cousin came to help her sometimes. Then Jill gave birth to my nephew. I congratulated them when they came home, and that is it. I don't like babies, so I mostly keep for myself now. But that doesn't stop Jill to ask for favors. Please watch the baby while I take quick shower, please watch it while I make myself some food, etc. I always refuse and we all have new fights over and over again. It all came to head last Friday when she asked me to watch my nephew while she goes to pharmacy for baby formula. I refused. She got mad and we had a fight. She grabbed her purse to go anyway and I told her, that the moment she walks out the door I will call the police for child abandonment. I was serious and she knew it. She broke down and screamed what a horrible human being I am, then she ran to her room. She had complete mental breakdown. When Jack and my parents came home we had the biggest fight yet. Jack accused me of hating Jill and my nephew, upon other things. I told him I refuse to bond because they will weaponize him against me. My parents told me enough is enough. That they can't believe they raised such a selfish human being. And that either I help or I move out. I'm thinking of second option. Ada? Edit, I work from home and pay 50% of all household expenses, including mortgage. Jack and Jill don't contribute anything for expenses. I asked my ex for a divorce 2 months ago and I found out a week later that my sister's husband was going to be his solicitor. I wasn't completely surprised as my ex has helped his career a lot, but I was still hurt when my sister told me. I've avoided him since finding out, but my parents invited everyone over for dinner and I missed them, so I went. I tried really hard to bite my tongue, but he kept referring to me as my ex's wife and told me that if he was me, he would stay married because I was going to lose a lot if I divorced my ex. I ended up telling him he was a real piece of shit in front of everybody, including his daughters. My sister got angry at me for saying that in front of her daughters, but I was so mad I told her I didn't care because he was a bastard, so now she's pissed at me. Ada? I'm F33 engaged to my fiancé, M36. I have a 4-year-old daughter and he has a 16-year-old daughter. He comes from a conservative family, so we won't move in together till after marriage. So far we're on good terms as a blended family. But I noticed that my stepdaughter acts kind of distant towards my daughter. Every time I try to talk to my fiancé about it, he'd tell me to give the kids a chance to bond and warm up to each other. My stepdaughter's 16th birthday took place on Sunday. Since she's into baking, she decided to bake cupcakes instead of having an actual birthday cake. My daughter and I went over to my fiancé's house to attend the party and I brought my stepdaughter a gift, which was an iPhone. We sat down as she started serving everyone cupcakes. Then when it was my daughter's turn, she bluntly said she was sorry but she didn't save any for my daughter. I felt confused. I asked if she made enough cupcakes and whether there were guests that came uninvited. She said no and that she just didn't make one for my daughter. I asked why, she refused to say. I was so mad and felt hurt on my daughter's behalf. I got up and told my fiancé that I wanted to leave. My fiancé tried to stop me and offered his cupcake to my daughter, but I refused to take it. On the way out, I grabbed the gift I brought for my stepdaughter and she stood there and watched. I could hear her yell "Dad!" She took the iPhone while I was walking out with my daughter. My fiancé tried to get me to go back inside but I refused. Later, he came over and we had an argument. He said that I overreacted, and that I know how some teenagers can be moody and do random stuff without an explanation, so I shouldn't have taken it personally. I said she excluded my daughter and didn't save her a cupcake, but he said it was just a cupcake and then reminded me that he offered his cupcake and said I should have accepted it and called it a day. He said taking the iPhone, which was supposed to be a gift, back was poor taste and it might hurt my relationship with his daughter. I refused to give it to him so he could give it to her since she was crying about it. He left and was mad at me. We haven't talked since then except via texts. Edit # she's been wanting the iPhone for a while and since her dad couldn't buy it I decided it'd be nice if I gifted it to her. For those who are asking how a teenager could own an iPhone, I'm sorry if it's uncommon where you live, but where I live, iPhones are the most common phones. Also, I saw that she served her girlfriend a whole plate of cupcakes, so it's not like she baked a specific number. My 28 female and husband, 29 male, have a daughter Peyton, 7 female. Peyton goes to a small school with 20 kids in her grade. Her birthday party is next month and we send out invitations to her friends at school. We invited the whole class except one student. The student we did not invite has bullied Peyton several times. We've had meetings with the school and parents. Obviously Peyton doesn't want this kid at her party. The other girl's mother called me to talk about it, saying how now her daughter is crying she was the only kid not invited and everyone at school is talking about the party. Peyton's parties are known by her classmates to be very over the top. I explained her daughter isn't nice to my daughter and that's the reason she wasn't invited. The mother knows this. The mother said I'm teaching my child to be a bully and use her wealth to make friends. I disagreed. The mother then asked if she had her daughter apology and write Peyton a letter we could reconsider. I told her we would not, and it has become a big deal every time I see the mom. Ada? Edit for questions. Invitations were not handed out in the classroom. I handed them to parents directly. I've seen a few people ask exactly what kind of bullying has occurred. So I'll give a couple examples from last year and this year. One time Peyton came home crying because the little girl was so mean to her, telling her she wasn't pretty, too chubby, etc. Peyton has come home crying several times because the girl has told her there's no way she's a cheerleader. Peyton does cheering on weekends, because she wasn't pretty. She has told Peyton she couldn't play with the rest of the girls in the class when they were all playing jump rope at recess. The other girls told her to let Peyton play, so when it was Peyton's turn the girl purposely got her out by not swinging the rope nicely. The teacher saw that happen. She's called Peyton a crybaby. And this is only a couple of the incidents that happened.